Okay, well, if you guys trust me after the nipple incident from the last time,
you're on thin ice. Got a yellow card.
I've learnt a new word again, guys. You know how I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons?
What nation are you going to
offend now? I'm going through the Curse of Strahd at the moment, and I learnt the word Burgermaster.
Burgermaster?
Burgermaster, yeah, Burgermaster.
Like someone's really good at cooking burgers, like Bob's Burgers.
Like I've just entered the house of the Burgermaster.
Is there more context?
Use it in a sentence.
The person in this town is the Burgermaster.
So it's their title.
Yeah, it's a title. Burgermaster. It's crazy.
It means they're the Burgermeister, and don't actually tell me what that means, David. I'm going to get very angry.
No, it means I think it means like the Duke of the town or something like that. Or like
it doesn't involve food of any kind?
No, it's just a Burgermaster.
Does it involve Conor McGregor?
Because what we're about to do involves Conor McGregor.
Hi and welcome to the We Need Roads podcast. I'm Neil, your host, and today I'm joined by, as always, my OG co-host, David. How's it going, David?
It's going all right, Neil. How are you doing?
I am tired. It's always been a long week, man.
I'm tired as well. We've just recorded a 2-hour podcast already.
Don't pull back the curtain. Don't pull back the curtain. People will turn off.
Straight back into another one.
That was all your imagination. Ooh.
Wayne's World. Happy ending. Blue. And we're joined by our US correspondent, Mr. Jose Lopez.
Greetings. Salutations.
You did the alien thing again. We're not aliens. You're not an alien. You're a human being, Jose.
We're a sci-fi pod. We enjoy movies.
Well, the irony is our resident sci-fi expert's not actually here because he's off being an international man of mystery, which I think this week, Ben, is off. I think his job this week is getting rid of all the brown M&Ms and definitely not beating people to death with their own shoes. What actor and 2 films did my intro for Ben reference?
I don't know.
I'm not going to lie. I stopped listening because I was trying to find out the name of the aliens because Jose's being like a real Trisolarian.
Trisolarian.
That's it. Thank you. That's what I meant.
Pulling it back to my well-written thing that no one seemed to reference, Ben is off being an international man of mystery this week, and which I think involves getting rid of all the brown M&Ms and definitely not beating people to death with their own shoes. That is a film reference. Now, I want to know what actor from both those films I referenced and what were the 2 films my intro for Ben referenced.
All right, Twitter, who's also known as X, this is your job now.
We don't have time. This is like, I want an answer now, Jose.
No. Oh, I thought you were going to tell the
I'm
listeners.
not going to lie, Neil. I wasn't listening again. I was trying to find the point in the notes that you were talking about.
Here's the question. Does this reference something from the 80s?
No. The 90s.
Where in the notes is this part?
Well, it's the intro for the episode we're literally just starting now,
First
David.
Up, okay, is it the original Roadhouse film? Is it Patrick Swayze?
No.
Is that okay? Wait.
Okay. We would be here all night or till the end of time, or when one of our 3 suns exploded. Clever. See what we did there. International Man of Mystery, Mike Myers, Austin Powers.
Who throws his shoe
in Wayne's World 2? When he goes up to the roadie and the roadie goes, yeah, Ozzy won't go on stage unless I get rid of all the brown M&Ms. And then I come in and there's this great bloody big Bengal tiger. And then I had to beat him to death with his own shoes. That's not quite the quote, but that's Wayne's World 2, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, both Mike Myers films. That was the reference. That was way too much work, and I feel like it's not funny at all now.
I should mention in Austin Powers,
funny, man.
The villain throws his shoe and then he hits him in the face. He's like, "Who throws his shoe? Honestly," and that's what I was thinking.
I'm gonna throw his shoe at you in a minute, Jose.
Whoa, that accent was amazing.
Really?
As well. I want to hear it again. Do it again.
I don't know. I think it was the fact that I wasn't trying, but as soon as I try, it's gonna be horrible.
Okay, we won't put pressure on you. I'll just let you weave it in some point during the podcast.
Hey, mate, who throws a shoe? Honestly.
Yeah, you're right. It was.
That was I thought that was a different accent from what you were just doing. Okay, look, gentlemen, this is a spoiler episode, and first up, we're going to be talking Roadhouse, and then later on, me and David are going to attempt to figure out what the hell was going on in the Free Body Problem. So first up, Jose, we're heading to your neck of the woods and Florida. as Doug Limans' Roadhouse remake moves us from the original film's location of Missouri to, well, I just said it, Florida. Now, guys, first question. Who has seen the original 1989 film starring Patrick Swayze and directed by the appropriately named, this is a brilliant name for a director we've never heard of before, Rowdy Herrington? And more importantly, does it deserve the 80s classic tag, or was it just an average film from back in the day?
I'm going to slowly hide in my jumper because I haven't seen the original. So I'm going to just hide.
I'm
actually kind of intrigued. I'm intrigued now. I saw the original a long time ago, so it's been a while.
Same.
When certain movies, they can be good, but also a lot of times they can be nostalgic. So, like, I wouldn't say they're bad, but like some movies, because I'm not a fan of, what's the one where the guy Rosebud?
Well, Citizen Kane.
I saw it as an adult,
and
I was like, I respect it for the achievements in cinematography, but that movie was boring. And
that is every film student's first thing when they force us to watch it, man.
Yeah. And so when I saw it, I'm like, okay, I don't trust anyone's opinions anymore on anything older than 1970. I think there's still some classics that are good, like, you know.
Mate, this is how old we are now, that modern day film students, so kids in their like early 20s at college now, I've literally seen some horrific hot takes on Twitter and other socials where they're like, I can't watch anything before the year 2000.
Oh my god,
films are too slow.
Oh my goodness. If anything, I think the 90s was an era of golden age.
What I liked is the first comment underneath that stupid take was someone literally going, "So you're saying The Matrix is too slow? Fight Club is too slow?"
Whoa!
Both 1999, weren't they? So yeah. The thing is, look, a lot of times social media people literally put out a hot take. That whole idea of a hot take is just to get a reaction. So people are basically posting shit just to get a reaction.
Clicks, reactions. That's fishing, man. They're dangling out a little rod trying to get you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the original Roadhouse wasn't
fished in. Get the net.
If only we could all see that.
I did the fishing
screenshot of that. Hang on, do it again. I'm going to screenshot it.
Definitely not. Never. Looking back on it, all I can remember about the original was that Jeff Healey was in it. Jeff Healey was a famous blind blues guitarist, and he was like the guy who was in the film playing in the bar. And I totally forgot. Also, I'd totally forgotten about all the throat ripping, which, if I'm kind of honest, I missed in the new one. I was like, yeah, he's going to rip your throat out, man. I was like, and he actually does rip someone's throat out in the original film, which I completely forgot about.
Yeah, I have to say, it's for its time, it did a lot of heavy lifting with the fighting, and honestly, the story was pretty fine. But it is simple.
Looking back at the original's reviews from back in the day, man, it didn't get many good reviews then, unless you were A, a fan of Swayze, or B, you were just a really big fan of cheesy, violent 80s B movies. I mean, but you know, the original film was a success with fans. It made 61 million off a budget of only 15 million.
But I mean, I think, again, like I said, it's not necessarily a bad movie. I just think people hold it in high regard because of that's what they grew up on.
That's what I'm saying is, I think it's that whole
nostalgia.
It's just an 80s B movie. It isn't like the high art form of it's not one of these 80s films that, like, if you come for it, I will murder you. It's just it was fine.
And it's not Predator.
You look back at a lot of movies with like rose tinted glasses, don't you? Because it came out like when you were a child, or when and you do have that nostalgic moment. Or if you saw something as a kid, perhaps not when you was younger. Like, for instance, The Karate Kid, for instance. Actually, no, that's a good fucking film still. Nah, forget that. That's a good fucking film.
Look, I think it's safe to say that this isn't a remake that had people up in arms saying, this new version will be terrible, it'll ruin my childhood, because no one really cared about the original that much. Like, it was an average film at best for me. And like we said before, perhaps leave the classics alone and try and improve upon a film that had a good idea but bad execution.
I feel like once I learned that it was going to be based in the Florida Keys, I knew that there's no way we're going to compare it to the original, because it's not homaging it as much as you're going to expect. Because like with remakes, like let's say The Thing, that remake was trying to be a prequel, and so in a way it didn't work well. This is just being its own movie, and it just happens to be in a dive bar where people fight.
There is not going to be a Roadhouse cinematic universe springing out of this film, is what I'm saying. I think let's talk casting. So stepping into Swayze's dancing shoes as Dalton is Jake Gyllenhaal, who bizarrely actually looks bigger in this than he did when he played a boxer in Southpaw a few years ago. I mean, he's about a 7 out of 10 on the Zac Efron scale here. If we're going by the Iron Claw being like the main, I think he was good in this, but without being overly memorable.
Yeah, and I mean, it was definitely a different take where he kind of overcompensated by being nice. He's like, "I'm about to slap you. Do you guys have insurance?
Yeah,
I'm about to take you to the hospital." And I think it was
I like that.
It was fun. It was definitely fun. He's not just this rough and tumble guy who's stoic, and it kind of added a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like he was almost too bland.
Yeah,
like with that sort of delivery of his lines, like, I don't make sure you got insurance. That whole like, okay, but you're gonna end up with a broken leg. I'm gonna end up punching you in the glasses. You make sure you get your glasses off, gents. I felt like he was just so. It was just really bland. Quite one-dimensional a lot of the time.
I think it is because we're so used to Gyllenhaal having that edge to him in a lot of his performances, that maniacal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen Ambulance with him in it recently, that was just hilarious.
Here's a question then. Do you think Jake Gyllenhaal, I say Gyllenhaal, by the way, I'm not going to let you gaga it. In a way, Jake Gyllenhaal is a great actor. He's done some great roles. I just don't think he has what you would say is swagger on screen.
Oh, no, I disagree.
Have you seen, like, not, I don't know, like, actually, define swagger, sorry. What's your
it's the way swagger? Where it's like...
Charisma. Aaron Taylor-Johnson in Bullet Train is swagger.
Swagger and charisma are two different things. I think charisma is a niceness about him. Swagger, I think, is more of like a cool, sexy kind of thing. And granted, Jake Gyllenhaal is really athletically built in this.
Okay.
He's 43 in
so
this
like
film.
The Bond sort of suave, like...
If you watch Ambulance... watch Ambulance.
I haven't seen Ambulance, so I'll have to do that then.
Ambulance, he is almost like Gyllenhaal decided, I want to make a Michael Bay style film, directed by Michael Bay, and I want to play my main guy as 90s Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
And he just comes, and I feel like he improvised half his lines in it because they're so random and bizarre. And then Bay was pretty much like, I don't care what you say, just jump from there to there. That's going to explode there. There's a bit at some point when someone asks him just a regular question, and he turns around and screams full in the face. Yeah, well, I have herpes, so we don't always get what we want. And I just like, it was so funny. And he comes out with stuff like this every 5 minutes in the film.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's what this needed, man. Maybe he needed more of this in this film because, like I said, just a bit of.
I think they weren't sure on the character, right? Because, like in the original one, Swayze's character, he's like doing his Tai Chi out in the mountains. He's very zen, and so they couldn't really change the character that much. So he had to be that in this as well.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh yeah, I agree with you. What? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it might be I wouldn't say weak writing. It's just that they didn't know where to go with it.
I mean, you contrast him to Conor McGregor.
I was about to say we have to talk Conor McGregor.
He steals the film.
I use the word character lightly because he just seems to be playing himself, right?
Yeah.
There is something morbidly entertaining in that he's so ridiculous.
If anything, he's a little bit reeled back in this film than maybe.
Real life.
Yeah.
I have to say, one of my favorite parts was when he's like, I got a tip for you. Never let anyone get this close. And then he headbutts him. And I'm like, that's actually a really smart thing. I liked what they did there.
He's so ridiculous on screen that you laugh for the right reasons. Or then he's so larger than life in it. And he is just funny. I mean, like my old man, when we watched it, he laughed every time McGregor was on screen.
His introduction as well. Can we just talk about his introduction?
Oh, he loves to show off.
It's where he's just been banging that person's wife in whatever country he's in. He jumps down off the and he's just pure butt naked. The first thing he sees is arse.
With his shoes.
With the shoes.
And he's just walking, strutting with he's got his classic McGregor strut through the.
I even had to ask, is that how he normally walks?
Yes.
Mate, it's even more profound. Yeah. Like, so he's got he proper swings his arms. Like, if you've seen him in fights, he proper does like.
He's like wacky inflatable arm waving tube man.
He is
real.
Wow.
He does. He really likes to give it a bit of that. Yeah.
Also, we got to talk the other villain of the piece, Billy Magnuson, who he's a criminal who just wants to get rid of the Roadhouse. And I really enjoyed him because he's just this son of he's like the crap son of a proper criminal who's just trying to live up to his dad's legacy. And he fucks up so much that his dad sends him McGregor's knock to sort everything out.
Yeah, I really liked his character. He played it really well. Although I would have liked to have seen more of his dad, just to kind of, establish just how bad the dad is. Because sometimes that can really add to a character.
But then he was in prison the whole film, wasn't he? So
yeah, but I'm saying they could show him in prison.
Why bother showing an old man in prison who can't really affect the plot. And the only thing he's really there to do is go, okay, well, I'm going to send Conor McGregor in, and then that's all we need. We just need Conor McGregor.
Guys,
there.
I kind of disagree with you on that.
Oh,
I didn't. I mean, to be honest, I completely forgot the character even existed until you just mentioned him. I felt like he was quite a forgettable villain.
I can't actually remember his character name, to be fair. I just
there you go. Like he was. I remember the one scene I remember him in, which was quite good, was where he was getting shaved on the front of the boat.
Yeah.
The boat's throwing him about, and the bloke's there just being like, and every time he gets nicked, obviously because he's being thrown around trying to get a fucking clean shave, and he's quite threatening. That's the only scene I can remember he was even in.
For the record, his name is Ben Brandt.
Okay, that's the character. Yeah.
Character,
obviously.
Ben Brandt.
I should have gone with Billy Magnuson. It's a much better name than Ben Brandt. Then we've got from the Suicide Squad, Ratcatcher number 2 herself, Daniela Melchior, who obviously cleans up really well in this and has there were so many close-ups on her eyes in this film, wasn't there? I was just like, okay, she has really beautiful eyes because they keep showing this to them every time she's in the close-up. And yet, just like Kelly Preston's Doctor character in the original, she isn't really given a lot to do. You thought, okay, well, they might give her a bit more to do in this because it's a modern film, like 30 years remade or so after the original. But no, and we all saw the twist hyphenate coming with her father being the corrupt sheriff, played by the great Joaquin de Almeida, who, again, I remember him as one of the villains of 24 years ago. I was like, oh, come on, man. He should have been your main villain in this as well.
Yes.
He's such a good actor.
I have to admit, going on that aspect, Jessica Williams.
Oh, man, yeah. I know what you're going to say.
The bar owner, she could have really done a lot better. And I don't even think it's her acting. I think it's just what they gave her.
Oh, yeah.
She's in Shrinking, and she does a great job. She's great with, like, adding a comedic twist to things. And honestly, I thought was forgettable. And not to her discredit.
I feel like they really missed a beat with the cheesy element of this film. They could have really lent into some of the cheesy lines that were there, like is this in June or something like that when he gets punched about, but the delivery of those, and I felt like these sort of side characters, at 3 different points, I thought they were each a love interest. Because I was like, oh, this is going to be the love interest of this film. And I was like, oh, no, wait, there's a new character that's been introduced. Okay, she's going to be the love interest. And I thought it might be the bartender at one point. There was just so many different moments where I was like, oh, this person's the love interest.
I have to ask you guys as sound engineers, or with your knowledge of sound, is it me or was the voiceover work not great? I feel like
I didn't notice it, so it was fine.
I can't even remember voiceover work being in the film.
It's just the ADR, like it looked off in places.
When was this?
Yeah. I noticed almost immediately after the first part of the movie when they went to Key West, it sounded like the people were being dubbed over with their own voices.
I mean, they do that, Jose. It's called ADR.
No, but I feel like they did it way more than, like, to the point where I really was noticing it.
Apparently, the film to check out for that, the worst ADR in history of films recently, apparently is Madam Web.
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that. Unfortunately, I feel like the staff at the bar got the worst of it because, like,
I want to talk about them a little bit in a second. Yeah, so I'll just quickly go back on your point about Jessica Williams. Yeah, she is amazing in Shrinking on TV as Gabby, and she's completely wasted. She's given nothing to do here at all. Just the same as Danielle Melchior. And so, hey, one thing this film's got in common with the 80s one, crap roles for women again. Yay!
Hey!
That was a sarcastic yay. But yeah, I mean, come on.
I know.
Write better female characters. Just, yeah.
There was a lot of potential there.
I mean, as a business owner, like just dive into something along a business owner and like how, like, have there be a little bit more on like the issues that she's been having with the
they
Roadhouse
just
or something, and then give her more awesome delivery and lines and just.
And she's a great actress.
Give her anything would have been.
And then one small uncredited role that I got to give props to was the alligator.
Oh yeah, bravo!
Is this the same alligator from X? Do you reckon, David?
I reckon it might have been the same one from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
They live a while.
Older.
Yeah.
They are basically prehistoric dinosaurs.
I think I got the wrong Indiana Jones film there. I meant Temple of Doom.
Yes.
Jose, I have a question for you. As it says it in Florida, are you honestly telling me that in Florida, in a small place, little island off there, no one at all would recognise a former top MMA UFC fighter is now the bouncer at their dive bar?
Well, if you paid attention, that one bar back guy, he did notice.
Yeah, there were quite a few people that noticed. I thought they were like, "What are you doing here?" Yeah.
It's not about noticing him. I'm surprised that eventually there wasn't a little more bit of a mob to get autographs from him. That doesn't make sense.
Because if he's a champion as well, like he's not lost, right? Is that what we get? Because he only quit because he killed somebody in the ring.
He killed someone in the ring.
Yeah. So he didn't lose ever. So he was probably champion, right? So if you're a UFC champion, then yeah, you're right. People, but then again, the only UFC person I think I know is Conor McGregor, and that's because Conor McGregor's just Conor McGregor. He's like created his own brand essentially.
I know
a few,
but that's so famous. Like, come and gone. Yeah.
I genuinely, I wouldn't know any others. So.
It is one of those things where we have to kind of give liberties.
But what that issue is as well, it doesn't give us a time frame from how long that happened. There's no idea. It could be. I think you needed to at least tell us at some point. When this happened with him, but we don't know at all.
So how long was he fighting Post Malone for? Like we ain't got a clue.
Too long.
Have we? Yeah, he could have been. I mean, that Post Malone. I thought Post Malone was awesome as well in it. By the way, just like his one small cameo at the very beginning.
He's probably better than that than his song being in The Crow.
Don't bring up The Crow again, man! Twice in a row.
According at the time of recording, Post Malone and Taylor Swift have released a record.
It came out today. Yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, literally, Jose. This morning, my Twitter feed was half of the threads were about Taylor Swift. The other half were pictures of that Josh Hartnett at the end of that trailer looking evil, and everyone was just adapting that as the meme of the day.
I think we can't talk long on Taylor Swift because otherwise we'll have all the Swifties on us if we say anything negative.
Why? I didn't say anything negative.
Then we'll die. Yeah, no, you didn't. You were positive.
Hey, as I'm a middle-aged white guy, do you know what else was released today? The new Pearl Jam album, and I've listened to it 4 times. So there you go.
Hey.
That's more up my alley as well.
That was definitely counter-programming on their point today. It's like, Taylor Swift's releasing a new album today. Let's release ours because we definitely don't have the same demographic of fans. I feel this film that despite the mostly well-choreographed fight scenes, I actually thought they didn't hit hard enough. So once Dalton started training up the 2 younger guys at the Roadhouse, played by Lucas Gage and Dominique Columbus, I felt sure that at the very least, at least when McGregor turned up, he would at least fuck one of them up really badly, put one of them in a coma, or even kill one of them. That would have been a better reason for Dalton then to give in to violence, other than his girlfriend's been kidnapped, who was known for 2 minutes, and the bad guys burnt down the father and daughter's shop.
Yeah, that's why. Yes, that's why.
That's the main one.
That's the trigger.
They were fine, right? They were just stood there. Oh, it's burning. Oh, no. Put a child in hospital, you cowards. Kill the dad. Put the child in hospital. Give her burns, man.
Man.
Yeah, the villains didn't go villain enough, did they? Really?
No, exactly.
I mean, granted, he was only there like twice. Once in the beginning, and then once to look up something on his computer.
They gave him a book that no one's ever going to read in their life. I mean, if that's not enough reason to then want to go full, killer on them, then
But I gotta say, in terms of fighting, I think the only time I was really fully taken out was in the beginning, when it was the overly digital, like, they're actually showing them hit, but it's obviously CGI. I think pulling punches would have been better, like the classic way.
Do it in camera.
In camera. But honestly, the last fight, that was the best.
Before we get to that last fight, once he kind of snaps, he outright just goes and murders a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, he's definitely bringing the violence now. But I feel like McGregor needed to murder a few people.
Maybe, I think you're right. Maybe one of the bar people that he trained up or something like that. Yeah, maybe they could have died.
You train him up, then you train him up, and he's like, yeah.
The young one, the one that was actually working there beforehand. I don't know where the other one came from. Was the other one like a surf?
No, he was a co-worker.
They were both
okay, I thought one of them was like selling a surfboard at one point, and then he turned into the bartender.
I feel like you watched a different movie for 5 minutes there, David.
Maybe.
But I think you're right. The motivation just kind of happened too quickly. If they would have showed him getting his butt whooped, that would have been a good start.
And put the child in
hospital. Did Conor McGregor have the same no nerves thing as Jake Gyllenhaal's character? Sorry.
What do you mean no nerves?
What?
Because that's what I thought. I thought he didn't, because he couldn't feel pain. I figured that was why he could deal with so much like hits and.
I think it was more of they just.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I felt like he couldn't feel pain because he was just taking punches and stuff, and he was just like, whatever.
It's not the no nerves thing. I think it was more of a mental. I think they were saying that they're both broken mentally, so that's why they're able to just take the hits and keep going. I don't think it was like a physical condition. I think it was
okay.
just showing that they were both crazy.
This is not the film where you're going to get that kind of in-depth exploration of the male psyche and violence.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
not that film.
I genuinely thought at one point it was like obvious that he didn't have any nerve. He couldn't feel he couldn't feel anything. He couldn't like. That's why he was able to take.
No, yeah, I didn't. No, that's just you, David.
Maybe okay.
So overall, right, I thought this was, you know, what I'm going to say. It was fine.
It was just okay.
I don't hold up the original as some like 80s masterpiece that should not be touched. And this remake brings decent action, but it's really not going to live long in the memory for me either. And it doesn't correct the poorly written female characters of the original either. It does exactly the same with them. And it's sad, really, because I'm a fan of director Doug Limans' work, going back to Swingers back in the day, which launched Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau. The massively underrated Go with Timothy Olyphant and Katie Holmes is
oh man, yeah,
what a film
I love
that is.
Go.
Yeah, and of course, it's probably one of his most recent. I mean, he works consistently well all the time. But the last one of his I really, really loved was The Terribly Named Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt.
I'm glad you said terribly named, but wonderful movie.
Well, they could have just gone with All You Need Is Kill, which was the name of the Japanese manga it was based on.
True, I read it,
now,
so it was pretty awesome.
Lastly on this, what's ironic is that director Lyman has had a massive row with Amazon over this being streaming only. And he actually boycotted the premiere because he believed it was going to be a big hit at the box office. And yet Amazon said, well, look, the deal was for streaming. Gyllenhaal played it safe by saying, look, to him it was clear when he signed on that it was only going to streaming. And I think that was probably the deal Lyman agreed in the first place. But they had obviously test screenings of it to fine-tune it. Mm-hmm. And that's where Lyman was saying, look, the test screening scores were through the roof. They were some of the best of his career. Put it in the cinemas. And Amazon were like, well, we could just get loads of new people subscribing and watching it because it's such a good film going straight to Amazon. So I can see their point on that, actually. And also, Doug, I'm talking to Doug Liman now. This is directly to you, Doug. When the original was a cheesy 80s action flick and your remake is a cheesy 20s action flick, I'd say you've gone to war with Amazon over the wrong film because it's just fine. And we all agree, man. It's just fine.
Well, I'd like to interject. He actually ended up going to the premiere because I saw an interview and he said that he wanted to, but then he didn't want to discredit any of the work that everyone else did. He knew when to give up, like to admit he was wrong.
Okay, fair enough.
He wanted to pick his battles. Yeah.
There's also one key character that we haven't mentioned and talked about that was in the film, and that is what I think was the best character in the entire film, the comedic relief henchman.
Arturo
played by Arturo Castro. Apparently the character's name was Mo, but the fact that his name really isn't relevant as a character. He was just the comedic relief henchman character who just did not have the personality of the tough guy and was just playing and I played it so well, and genuinely for me he was the best thing about the entire film.
I wouldn't say he's the best thing out of the film.
Oh, for me, up there with Conor McGregor. He was up there.
I would almost agree with you on that, David. Oh, yeah, he was superb. Every time he was on screen, he stole the scene he was in.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, it's like a character from a different movie. Even he's almost too funny.
But that's what makes it funny. He's not one of them.
Yeah, it was because it was just so dry and just so odd and out of place.
I love his character arc. It is, hey, I'm not really that bad a guy. I don't really like working with these guys. But, a job's a job, and I don't want to get murdered. Please don't murder me.
Yeah.
And he just drives off in a motorcycle he said he couldn't ride.
All right. Well, that brings us about to the end of our time on Roadhouse. No roundhouse. How many roundhouse kicks to the face would you give Roadhouse out of 5?
I take none for it, but I give it maybe 2.
2 roundhouse kicks. Yeah, I'd give it 2.
I'd say out of 5, a 3. I think it deserves a good watch.
I think we're in the calm waters of fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6.5 out of 10.
Jose, because you have not watched the next show we are talking about, The Free Body Problem, I am going to use my power as a wall facer to banish you. You are hereby banished till the next episode. And as they said in The Usual Suspects, and like that, he was gone. Well, actually, do you know what we've done with Jose? We've removed his brain from his body. We've put it in a little tank. We've put it in a spaceship, and that spaceship needs to hit 33 nuclear explosions to propel him into the future, where some aliens might pick him up. Is that about right?
I mean, that makes perfect fucking sense. That's the brilliant plan from the brilliant minds that we have here in the UK, in the world, not just the UK, in the fucking world.
Yes, and if dear viewer, you didn't realise what we were talking about, It's probably not going to get much clearer, but next we are going to talk to two Davids' next show after Game of Thrones. Yes, that is Mr. David Benioff and Weiss. And our David, this is not the time for a Game of Thrones rant, okay? Otherwise, you'll be sent.
Oh, it's got to have a little Game of Thrones rant if we've got.
You can have a minor Game of Thrones rant.
David,
it really
do
not create a free David problem.
I won't. I already give me in a room with them, Neil. I'll tell them what's what.
I don't think that's legally a good idea.
No, neither do I. No, I think the only thing that I will say about it is that the fact that they were marketing themselves really heavily in the marketing for the Free Body Problem instead of, the trailer for it had them. Yeah, so the trailer had them talking about it and not really showing so much of the show. It was like them. They had like a little introduction to themselves, almost being like, "Oh, look at us!" Like, no, fuck you, David and Dan. You ruined everything that was good and well in the world. Because you can't fucking
That's what I was expecting.
Because you should just be taken away from any fucking keyboards. And like I said because Free Body Problem, I think, was on both of our lists for most anticipated TV show of the year. And I think it was on mine, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it was because David and Dan were doing it, but because they weren't fucking writing it, because they were adapting it. And they were adapting it from the book written by Lou Sixon. I don't know. I've not read the book. But anyway, it's a trilogy. It's a part of a trilogy of books, and the next one's called The Dark Forest.
And yes, we are going to attempt to unravel just what the hell was going on in season
1. Chinese author, Chinese book, Chinese novel.
Season 1 of Netflix's The Free Body Problem. And look, I've watched it. I've enjoyed parts of it. I really enjoyed other parts of it. I didn't really know what was going on all the time in it. So this is what the premise of the show is from Wikipedia. Yi Wenji is an astrophysicist who sees her father beaten to death during a struggle session in the Chinese Cultural Revolution. She is conscripted by the military because of her scientific background and is sent to a secret military base in a remote region. Her decision at the base to respond to contact from an alien planet has implications for a group of scientists in the present day, forcing them to face humanity's greatest threat. I mean, that's a bit of a shit premise, to be fair. That's like, I would say, a minor part of the first episode.
Yeah, I think, like you said, that was really shit. That's just like the first episode synopsized, really. The show is about trying to communicate with the Chinese are trying to communicate with aliens.
Yeah.
And they succeed in communicating with aliens, and aliens want to come to Earth, but then they don't. And then they realize that they don't need humans to be there when they arrive. But this travel is going to take 400 years until they arrive, and they're afraid that because of how quickly Earth is adapting its technology. For instance, there was a little monologue scene where they're like, "How long did it take for you to use basic tools?" And it was like, I don't know, about 1,000 years. How long did it take until you got used to like Iron Age? And it was like, 500 years. Like, how long did it take until you were like the Steam Age? I don't know, 250 years. And it kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter. How long did it take you to get to the information age, the technology age? And it was like, I don't know, 10 years.
Like a fortnight.
Yeah. So basically, they were getting afraid of how quickly that we were developing ourselves and our technology, and they realized that in 400 years, we'd have surpassed them in technology. And they were scared about it.
Wouldn't they have realised that before they started on their 400-year mission to Earth in the first place? If they're that so bloody clever.
There's a lot of things in this show, that didn't really make a lot of sense when you actually properly look at it.
I gave up very early on trying to look for the explanations and everything, and just kind of like, okay, it's going to be on these shows where I don't understand everything that's happening, and as long as I'm entertained by it, I'm going to go with it.
Like, because everyone starts seeing these numbers, right? All the scientists so early on in the show, all the scientists start seeing numbers basically projected into their brains. And
drives most of them crazy.
And it's a countdown. Which is heavily implied a countdown to suicide, although it's never actually properly.
Well, I think it's a countdown. I interpreted it as that the countdown. They didn't know what it was, and it just terrified them so much they didn't want to see what the countdown was.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. Coming again. This is going to be a messy section, guys. So just
we're going to be all over the place with this.
All over the place.
I mean, if you've ever listened to our earlier podcast where it was just me and Neil, it is a clusterfuck, people.
So yeah, look, I would summarise it as in the modern day, because that premise just tells us about the China side. It doesn't tell us about the other side of the story. And in the modern day, scientists all around the world start dying or killing themselves because they all start seeing this countdown clock right in front of their eyes. And understandably, that drives most of them crazy.
But that's happening. So it's explained that they're doing that because they want to restrict the science that we're actually able to develop. But that's happening before that they've decided that they actually don't need us to be here. So that's happening whilst they still think that we're going to work together.
Yeah.
So why do it in the first place at that point?
Well, the first episode ends with the night sky and stars flashing a pattern that breaks all the rules of physics. So I was like, okay, well, that's kind of... Oh, I'll tell you what we should quickly mention.
That's a good thing, yeah.
Who's in the show. So the show stars former Game of Thrones alumni, because of course there was a bunch going to be in it. We got Samuel Tarly himself, John Bradley. We got Sadavas Seaworth himself, Liam Cunningham, who gets probably one of the best roles in the show. And we have the High Septon. Is it High Septon?
Yeah, High Sparrow. Yes.
High Sparrow. Look at me with the Game of Thrones knowledge. And also we have a Jovan Adepo, Rosalind Chow, Aya Gonzalez, Alex Sharp, Jess Hong, Marlo Kelly, and his superb, my favourite character in the show, Benedict Wong, with his full-on regular Mancunian accent, who, like most people, I did not realise Benedict Wong was English until quite recently.
No, him and Jonathan
Wongers.
John Bradley
Go
were
Wongers.
my favourite characters in the show. 100%.
Right, so let's so we kind of set up episode 1. I'm kind of working through episodes briefly. So in episode 2, in the past, Yi ignores her boss's rules and she broadcasts a message to the universe and receives a reply from, and this is again on the official description on Wikipedia, a pacifist rogue agent in a hostile alien civilization warning her not to contact them again as it will prompt an invasion. And then, Yi's not in the best place. So she's like, we're actually not worth saving.
Yeah,
and do you know what?
And
I'll
at
offer
this
to
point,
help you.
I think we've already been introduced to the game that they're playing. So that there's these helmets. Yeah, so in the modern day. Yeah, and it's revealed that Yi, the older Asian lady in the future, is the same as the person which is like the most obvious thing that was ever going to be. But for some reason, that was...
Yeah.
When
they revealed it as a twist, I was like, that's not a twist. We clearly knew. She was the only character it could be.
So when her daughter committed suicide in the first episode, very early on, she was revealed to have been playing this silver headset that looks like a much more advanced version of like the Oculus. And it is just the most advanced video game, VR,
Tech
AR,
ever.
whatever you want to call it, all in one. And they basically get transported to a whole new world where they're having to go through levels to discover why a civilization is being destroyed, essentially, and how they can save the people. And at each stage they're going and they're developing more information about what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, so it's just gin and Jack. Sounds like a drink. It actually is a drink. It's 2 drinks. So you have gin and Jack, but it's funny because Gin obviously gets the other lady's headset sent to her, or she gets it, and then the first time Jack uses it,
it was intended for her though, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're not invited to the game, you turn up and just get horribly murdered again and again and again.
Just gets his head chopped off.
I mean, it was fun and all that, but in the first couple of episodes with all the VR stuff, I was just like, is this what it's going to be? Is like half this stuff just going to be in this VR world? So it wasn't really connecting with me, and like again, I was struggling to stay up with it.
Sorry,
however, episode 3, Destroyer of Worlds, finally gives us some answers, as we find out that the game is a recruitment tool made by the now older Mike Evans, played by Jonathan Pryce, and that he's been regularly in contact with the aliens for years. And the game is basically, like you said, a simulation to see if anyone can save the aliens' home civilization, which will be destroyed by a free body problem, which is where I think 3 planetary objects interact, resulting in all of their destructions.
So I thought it was one planet's evolving around 3 suns, and it keeps getting pulled into the gravitational pull every now and then. And then as the 3 suns align, that's where the gravity on the one planet got really strong, and then they all died that way. Because it was interacting with the 3 different suns, and it was being pulled into each gravitational pull every now and then. It created these disasters, and it basically became
in the sun.
What song is that?
Sorry,
that was
Nirvana.
Was good singing. You should do it more often.
I mean, it's something I've never heard anyone say in my life. Cool. So yeah, cheers, man. Appreciate that.
So yeah, I think that's what it was. So basically, each time they had like extinction level events, didn't they? And then it was like, oh, we're gonna have 50,000 years of peace. But then so they basically the civilization had to restart essentially for them each time.
And then the League of Gentlemen turn up. Reece Shearsmith from the League of Gentlemen. Every time they get there, there's like the 2 cocky, like Plato and Aristotle in one, and then there's like All like the classic theorists are there. And I just like, that took me over. I was like, why is there a League of Gentlemen in it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's basically what they're trying to do. So they're trying to save this civilization from the free body problem.
And then this is where we find out as well that the aliens are already on their way to Earth, but like you said, it's going to take 400 years to arrive, by which time humanity would have evolved enough to defeat them. Hence, the aliens' plans to stop Earth advancing scientifically, which, when Aya Gonzalez's character, Augie, realizes that, she begins working again, and the countdown expires with nothing happening. Jack and Gin and Jack, my favourite drink, not together, meet Tatiana, who's like a bit of who is this character? Because she seems invisible to all cameras.
I feel like Tatiana was blatantly meant to be Emilia Clarke.
No, don't bring Emilia Clarke into this.
I feel like she was. I genuinely feel like that was written for her, because I felt like they were almost the same in a lot of ways.
No, Tatiana's cool though.
I felt like they were. Yeah, that's genuinely what I thought.
Well, Tatiana's played by a young Aussie actress called Marlo Kelly, and I think this is the biggest thing she's ever done, clearly. And I like Tatiana because she's she's like a what's going on until you find out who she is and what she is later on. She just seemed invisible to all the cameras and anyone other than. She has that conversation with Augie on the bench, and like you see the CCTV and there's no one else there, and you even see a cigarette light up, that was cool. I was like, that's a cool little moment.
Yeah, that was
again. Cool. She explains the aliens' predicaments to them, and Jack doesn't believe it. He's like, no, bullshit. I call bullshit. I'm out. See you later. And then Tatiana just turns up and straight out murders the shit out of him.
I know. I genuinely think the show went downhill after he died.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
Keep telling you, man. I'm still waiting for my Moonfall sequel.
Yeah, I haven't seen Moonfall still.
Oh, you should watch it, man. He is the lead in it, and he's brilliant. John Bradley is the lead. He has a cat called Fuzz Aldrin, as I've mentioned many times on this podcast. That alone should make it, and it's so stupid. It's stupid sci-fi that takes itself stupidly, and I loved it. Also, the makers of the show are clearly not fans of Vodafone, because when he gets in his internet and Jack gets in, his internet's playing up, he goes, "Oh, fucking Vodafone," and his internet drops out. So they killed Samuel Tarly. They killed Sam.
Yeah, man. I genuinely think it went downhill after that.
Well, then that brings us up to episode 4, and you find out that Evans has a ship called the Judgment Day, which she uses to contact the aliens, who we finally find out are called the Santi, or the Tri-Solarians, because obviously 3 suns. We find out that a secret multinational organisation run by Thomas Wade, Sir Davos himself, Liam Cunningham, is trying to stop Evans and his people who want to help the aliens invade Earth in like 400 years' time. We also find out, as we mentioned earlier, in the least telegraphed twist of all time, that Yee's still alive and that the present-day version of her is basically in charge until a gunfight breaks out between Wade's team and hers and she is captured. And then the episode ends chillingly with Evans telling the Santi about Little Red Riding Hood. This is one of my favourite scenes of the season. And them completely misunderstanding the point of the story and what lying is. And as Evans makes the situation worse, they say, look, we can't exist with humanity if they lie, and they broke off all contact with Evans. And I really liked this. I thought this was one of the best scenes in that.
We do not understand.
Yeah.
We do
they
not
just
understand.
decide they can't understand humanity. They can't understand what a lie is.
Can't trust us.
They can't trust us.
I mean, I wouldn't trust us. Have you met us?
No, definitely. They were kind of smart. And then this brings us on to, I think, what you think, and I agree with you.
There's but I think there's one key storyline that we've forgotten about at the moment, and it's one of the key characters, which is the
Will.
Will's character, played by Alex Sharp. Yeah, about he's diagnosed with cancer, and that he's very much in love with Jin's character.
I didn't care about Will until they brought him into it. Like, he was just like off at the side, really.
He was very much peripheral.
For the first few episodes, he was like, and then once you realise that, okay, he's going to be involved in the ongoing storyline a bit more, hopefully. And I mean, it kind of took me out of it a bit. I felt like I was watching like a British drama when in his scenes. I mean, he played it really well. Like, I did really enjoy his character as he went on. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I think 100. I thought he got better further on. You went into it and you understood like his love interest a little bit more. It played into it a little bit more, and he played in his role became quite important as well. Further on into the show, which we'll get onto on an episode that we'll talk about. But I think it's actually important to mention here that one of the key differences from the books was that there was only 3 in the group of friends, which we're following essentially in the show. It's about 5 friends, isn't there? I think in the book,
then.
Yeah, in the book there's only 3. There's one character in the book that's split into 3 characters for the show.
Wow, that would take some doing.
Yeah, so
that's why they're good at adapting, David. That's why they're good at adapting.
Would you call it good? So it's Jin. So Jin's character essentially in the book is split into 3 in this one. So it's Jin, Oggy, and Jack. Are all one character.
So I'm guessing Jack doesn't get killed in the book at the same point then.
Well, that explains why it was easier to kill him off as well, potentially.
He didn't exist.
I've not read the book, I should say.
I probably won't because
it's meant to be very good.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
the
very
third
good.
book's meant to be the best one as well, I think.
Episode 5, Judgment Day, and well, man, this is the highlight of the season because it got dark as shit. So we've referred to this unofficially as the Panama Canal episode.
Panama.
As long-time listeners to the pod will know, me, David, and our dearly departed Jose. Sorry, I said that wrong. He's not dead. He just hasn't seen the show, so he's gone. He's left. He's left for the day. We let him out early for good behaviour. But me, David, and Jose all worked for a cruise line at the same time, and I think all of us did the Panama Canal run at one point.
It was literally the only run I did. I did Europe for a little bit and Panama for the majority of the one contract I was on.
I only did Panama once, and that was your first contract and only, and it was my first contract and first of an ungodly amount that went on about 7 years. And Jose, I think, did the Island Princess, which is the other Panama. The 2 ships that
That's
did
the
Panama
one I did. I did Island.
Yeah, the Panama, because they built 2 ships that were specifically
Coral and Island, I think. Yeah.
The Coral and the Island. The Coral was my first one, and the Island was yours, and the Island was Jose's. I think Jose's last ship actually. And they were built specifically to be the biggest ship you could get through with the shortest amount of clearance through the canal. So I remember when we've been going through it and I've been on board.
Yeah, since they've added a new area, like a new section to the Panama Canal, where they can get bigger ships through it.
Yeah.
But,
that make more sense?
Yeah, at the time when we were doing
in the olden days,
they were still building it when I was there because they wanted shots of it and shit. Yeah.
I think we all reacted to this episode a lot more.
I loved all the Panama Canal. It was like really small things I really loved about it. So like the
shot of the
jacket
signs
that they had to wear, like and like the helmets that they were wearing. Like we fucking wore those helmets, the little Panama Canal helmets.
Even got to cross the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
On the locks. Do you get a walk across it?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I stood there in the middle of the lock, like right on the opening. And got a time lapse of the ship coming towards us. Fucking awesome shot it was.
And then you like saying to your photographer mates on board, right, you better get a shot of me on the lock.
I mean, I had the workers there, and there's always like that one security bloke that's sort of walking around looking after you.
Yeah.
He had a right go at me. For doing
I'm not surprised. Yeah, that this is the Panama Canal episode, and at this point, I didn't even know what the whole deal with Augie's microfibers were, or what horrific use they were going to be put to. I just didn't know what the plan was. I was just watching it and going, "Wait, what's going on?" And essentially, her microfibers Swiss cheese the ship and every single person on it. And I mean, this was amazingly well done, and probably the high point of the series for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I mean, when you see like all the people getting literally, it was like Cube, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. It reminded me
of
Resident
Evil.
Resident Evil. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it reminded me of the Resident Evil lasers, but without you actually seeing them. So it was like this invisible force that's coming towards you, and people are seeing it coming towards you, and they're just dissecting everyone and all like.
Oh.
They
murdered a lot of children in this, man.
It was the high point of the show, and I think I liked how they dealt with her. It was almost like that Oppenheimer thing. I think they might have even referenced Oppenheimer in it, where it's like he was struggling to deal with the fact that his creation was used to kill all these people, and she had the same sort of issue where she created the technology that was able to do all of this damage, but she's not the person that pressed the red button, essentially. And that was a conversation I think she even had with Liam Cunningsworth's character.
Liam Cunningsworth?
Is that his name? What's his name?
Liam Hemsworth.
No, Liam Cunningham.
Liam Cunningham.
Yeah. That was close.
I think I prefer that name. That's a name for a night. Liam Cunningsworth. That's a name. Write that name down, David. We're going to use it at some point. We're going to have a character called Sir Cunningsworth, who is cunning.
Okay, mentally noted.
After that, amazing. I mean, it's harsh, man. Like seeing that like child 7 foot on the floor. That was like Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Are you even allowed to show children dying on TV?
Dissected on screen?
Yeah. I don't think it's allowed, is it? There's something.
I'm not sure.
There's something about child death in that manner. I think there's a rule on it.
I mean,
I might be pulling this out of my bottom, and I do that a lot, but. You don't see it often, and you don't see it in this.
Yeah.
So,
and, hey, we didn't need to see any more than that. To be fair, man.
but the implication with the little child's leg, you're right. That's all you needed to see.
Implication. And I actually mentioned here as well. Also, this is literally the first episode where I wrote a note about Will. I was like, and Will, who I don't think I've mentioned yet, who's a really nice guy who's dying of cancer. Unrequited love with Jin, and he buys her a star, which is nice because he's now super rich after Jack's death. Also, the episode ends with the knowledge of the Santee becoming public knowledge, and of course, they do one of nice little bits of sky painting again, and they tell the whole world, "You are bugs."
Yeah, the eye appears in the sky. The eye in the sky.
The eye in the sky. And also, this is the episode. Is this the episode where we learn Tatiana is basically called one of two Sophons, and they're these like high-dimensional proton supercomputers, which is a phrase that I don't know any of that means. Basically, they're like super VR things on Earth that can just see and keep track of anyone and anything at all times.
Light speed, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we kind of realised, that Tatiana is a Sophon.
Like, she's not a Sophon. No.
What is she?
She's just a person. She was like the Sophons were being the people that were deleting all the footage for her and deleting, like, scrubbing all the CCTV footage, and they were scrubbing all of the. So that was them doing that, like adding the illusion on top of it. But she's not. She's just a human being, because...
Oh, see, again, I was so lost, man. I was so lost. Episode 6, The Eye in the Sky. The incident causes worldwide panic. Wade and the PDC, not the darts thing, the Planetary Defense Council, they gather a group of experts, and their best plan, David, was come up with a probe that's going to reach at least 1% light speed, and it would intercept the incoming ships in 398 years' time, giving us 2 years' notice. And Jin proposes what we call Project Stargaze, where they use 1,000 nuclear bombs timed as propulsion sources for a probe with radiation sails. I mean, that sounds like a terrible plan.
Yeah.
What do they do when they get there 2 years early? Oh, by the way...
and I don't... how are they going to communicate back the information as well? Because the bloke was a brain. That's the one thing I didn't get with the plan.
We haven't got to bloke brain yet.
So it's all well and good getting the person there. So basically all you were doing is giving the Santee more information.
Yeah.
And not... Like, what were you getting back from that?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, yeah, they'll pick him up. But, like, unless I completely missed that moment where...
No, I'm with you on that.
Because the whole idea was that they wanted to pick him up. They didn't want this just to fly by. They wanted to grab him. So they made sure that they did something... And it was a human brain because they don't understand how human brains work. They wanted to have a look at it, dissect it, all of that jazz. But how were they going to relay information back to Earth to know what's going on?
I think my take on it was take apart the brain and from the brain see what the intent was of Brain Boy. And I don't know, actually. I don't know at all, man. I'm lost on that one.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, the plan itself to blow up nuclear bombs and have like 50 of them. How many of them go off like simultaneously? Yeah. Very quickly, and then without anything going wrong. And the maths had to be perfect. And it's like, well, and on the third one, it wasn't had nothing to do with maths. Some engineer didn't do his job properly and screwing some bolts tight enough.
Well, that's what made me laugh is that when Sir Liam Cunningsworth, as I'm only ever going to call him now, he's just like, how many nuclear bombs do we need? Right, how many have we got? Oh, about 20. Great. We need like another hundreds. And I'm not even sure how they got around that. It lost me. The science of this show lost me at points.
If we're going to start getting onto bits that started to bug us, this is where bits really started to bug me with the show. Time in the show just became completely irrelevant. Like how much time had passed? Who fucking knows? I was basing my time passing off the guy dying of cancer and how far along he was in death. That was my barometer of time within the show. And characters were just fucking teleporting wherever they wanted to be. Like, one moment they're in Panama. Oh, next moment they're in London. Now they're at Cornwall, I think it was. It looked like the White Cliffs of Dover at one point, but I think it was Cornwall. Yeah, they're just teleporting all over the place.
Well, I've just read a little bit on episode 7. Another ex-Game of Thrones director doing this, Jeremy Pedozzo, whose name I've seen quite a few times. This was mainly a Jin and Will episode, if I remember rightly. And this is the one where Wade kind of says, well, look, we can take your brain and send it into space.
Is this where he takes the train to see her and say that he loves her, but then he doesn't do it because he sees her with his other...
No, that's the episode before.
So that episode, mate, what a load of fucking shit. if anyone's ever taken a train in the UK, like I'm sure train drivers have a really shit fucking operating system, but they never fucking work, right? They're always striking. Right,
mate,
so
every time I have to go to London for work,
they're obviously working under really shit conditions, and they're not getting the pay that they deserve, or whatever the reason is that they're striking. But they're always fucking striking
because of the bad conditions and pay and all that.
And this bloke takes a train from Cornwall to London. There's no fucking way trains will be running after the news that everything. Whilst the country's fucking rioting, everything's gone to shit. And
but the train service that quickly. I don't think. No.
Train service is still working pretty all right, mate.
Yeah, but. I get the train rage. I feel the train rage. I know the train rage. I've got to go to London in a couple of weeks for work for a day in the office up there, and I'm just dreading what train fuckery is going to be waiting for me on the way back the next day. On that day, sorry. I think if you watch it, a lot of people just don't care in the show because it's 400 years, and there's quite a lot of people, especially
early on though. We see that shot of like after the day that the news breaks, and
everything.
Burning everywhere, but then again, there's no time scale. That's got how far after that scene was. Who knows? Who knows? We don't fucking know. It should. I feel like there should be a countdown that says 500 years until 399 years until Santi arrival, 399 years and 6 months until Santi.
It wouldn't move much in the course of season 1, though, would it?
Yeah, I know, but anything like that would be helpful.
Just months, like 3 months later.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. No, I you're right on that. I think shit. Obviously hit the fan when the giant eye in the sky and the whole world gets told they're bugs. I wonder if in different countries it was in different languages, or why they picked English.
It was in different languages, wasn't it? Didn't we see that?
I don't remember.
I'm still on issues. So you know how they have the technology to, the idea was that they were trying to stop people from progressing with science. Did they just forget? Because all of a sudden everyone's using science again. They're able to create the frozen monkey, and to create cryogenic freezing or whatever it is, and then they're able to do all the science around getting the explosions. So the argument is, I suppose, that they want them to get there and they want to see the brain, so they're allowing it to happen. But they're still allowing science to progress, so they're not actually stopping anything. And if they've got the capability to project numbers into people's brains, can't they just make the world blind? Just make scientists blind or something like that.
All that really happens in episode 7 is it's the Will death episode. Basically, it's the Will's going to become the brain in the jar, and of course, you have to do that standard romantic thing where she runs back to him. Sorry, you missed him. He's a brain in a box on the way to. Oh
man, classic. The amount of films I've seen where that happens.
Yeah, star-crossed lovers, and then you're a brain in a box. It's being sent to an alien species. And also, don't forget, Yenwei goes back to China. Yen Wenji goes back to China and visits where she originally started. And then Tatiana's like, right, you're all done, and now I'm going to murder you and push you off the cliff.
Santi don't need you anymore. Bye.
See you later. Which brings us on to our final episode of the season, Wolf Facer.
World's worst bodyguard as well. Do you mind if you let me go in here on my own? Nothing. I'm not going to do anything sketchy whilst I go into this place, this old government. There's absolutely no reason why I'd want to go in here by myself. What was he thinking?
I'll tell you one character we've not actually mentioned at all yet.
Soul?
Soul, yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't talked about Soul yet. Yeah.
Our Soul.
And he's actually one of my favourite. Him and Jin and Jack were my favourites out of the group, I think. Actually, to be fair, the friends were all quite good. They all performed really well. The characters were all good. Soul was probably my favourite of the aside from Jack.
What I really liked was at the start of episode 8, I was like, why do I recognise that actress? The one who gets brutally mown down by a car. Oh, I can't remember her name.
Oh, the one he sleeps with, and he's like, do you remember my name? Yeah, it's ironic that we can't now remember her name.
Because she was in Lockwood & Co. in the first episode and played Lucy's best friend, who then gets ghost locked. And I was like, oh, they're bringing her back for the next series. And of course, they never did. Fuck you, Netflix.
I kind of hope they do bring Free Body Problem back at least, but they're not going to bring this person back. So she's still
dead.
She's dead. Yeah. So she dies because the Santi are trying to kill Soul.
They're trying to kill Soul, and we're like, why are they trying to kill Soul?
And he's the only person in the world that the Santi are trying to actively kill. And
why,
there's obviously
David?
I mean, the mystery of it isn't revealed, but because of this, the world decides to, or America, I think it might just be
The United Nations.
the United Nations. Thank you, Neil. Decide to make him a wall facer.
Does that mean he stands and faces the wall?
But he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be one, and it might be. Maybe he's just in the naughty corner for the rest of his life.
Like Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be a wall facer. But basically, the plan for a wall facer is because the Santi don't know the human mind. They just have to think of things, never write anything down, never talk to anyone about it. Just have it in their brain, have the plan in their brain,
and then
act on it. That's it. That's the ingenious. And there's 3 people that were chosen for this job, and Sol was one of them. And he doesn't understand why he was chosen because he's an average scientist, or he's a very intelligent scientist, but he's not accomplished anything. He's not done anything amazing. He's just
so he rejects it, and he's like, "Nah, I'm out." And then what happens? He gets shot by a sniper immediately.
Yeah, and then they keep trying to kill him, and there's obviously a reason why, which wasn't revealed. But this is I think so. Reading into the book side of things, this is the second book we're on already with this wall facer. Yeah, I mean, what a fucking dumb word name as well, wall facer. What was the reasoning for that? Wallflower would have made more sense because they're just like growing beautiful things on a wall that you don't really notice.
I'll tell you one other person we've not mentioned, David, who is probably one of the stars of the show, and I mentioned this at the start of this section.
Go on.
Wongers.
Benedict Wong. Yeah, obviously. Oh my god, man! This spoiler review has been all over the show.
This has been about as coherent as the show.
This is what happens when you don't make notes, Neil. This is we go off Wikipedia.
There were notes to a point, and I'm sure you can tell.
I mean, I don't know why I just blamed you. I'm perfectly capable of making notes.
This is a very clever. Actually, no, this is fully intended to create in our listeners the oral experience of what it's like to watch the Free Body Problem.
That's true.
And that confusion.
It's a mess. Yeah.
All what we planned, all planned out meticulously.
Wong though, Wong is out of the friends, he's the best character in the show for me. His relationship with his son really should have been built on more because you could kind of want to see more of it.
They bond over video games.
They bond over video games at the very end. What even is he? They actually try explaining his job like 5 or 6 times.
Well, he
never really properly explains it.
Because someone says to him, "Who'd you work for?" And he's like, "Oh, well, it was them. Now it's them, and I work for these people."
Yeah, it's so like confusing. Even
I bet he loves it getting to use his regular Mancunian accent for the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, how many people in the world, especially probably out in the States, just did not realize that Benedict Wong is not like Asian American. He's English Mancunian.
Yeah.
So, of course, in this episode, what happens? Well, Will's brain in the jar finally gets launched off. And unfortunately, something goes wrong. And bye-bye, Will's brain in a box.
Yeah, so that was all completely fucking pointless.
Well,
4 episodes worth of planning, roughly. All for that one moment that all gets thrown up in the sky, literally. Yeah, it was the visual person that you see as the aliens because there's gotcha. Where they keep saying, "What do we look like?" Yeah, we're seeing we don't look anything like this. It's just for your benefit and for
that was a good one. It's going to be tentacles, man, isn't it? It's going to be lots of tentacles.
And probably good for the budget as well, not to have to make an alien.
For the budget. They've gone the Battlestar Galactica reboot. They just look. They could be anyone. They look just like us. But I like Wade there, even though he's kind of been like the main bad guy / good guy. It's really hard because it's shades of grey guy in it, isn't he? Because he's doing what he's supposed to be doing for like the good of Earth, but also he murdered a whole bunch of people on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
When they keep coming for him or putting the shits up him, he's like, "Well, clearly I'm getting close. Clearly you want to stop me." So I like that. I like he's kind of. They do shit him up on the plane though, didn't they?
Yeah, but they can't just make him blind then with the fucking just stop him that way or put the numbers in his head or something. Just do anything to slow him. But they don't. They just let everything happen. Or just they control the plane at one point and cut the technology off in the plane. Just let the plane drop.
I know, right?
If they want him dead,
problem solved.
Yeah, or if they want Soul dead, how often do they take Soul on a plane to get in places? And then they've shown that they have that technology. Just cut the plane off and let him fall. There's a lot of things that's like they're capable to do and they don't do it for some reason. Capable to do? That's good English, David. Capable of doing.
It's late. We've been here 17 hours.
I'm so tired.
The last scene of the show is Clarence, the angel. That's it. It's a Wonderful Life reference. No. Clarence, has you got your wings?
Every time a bell rings.
Clarence takes a despondent Jin and a similarly depressed Saul to see a swarm of cicadas, insects that have survived despite humanity's decades-long attempts to eradicate them, implying humanity has the same resilience. Well, they did call us all bugs, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene.
And that's overall my kind of issue with the show. It's this collection of really cool scenes and set pieces, but the connective tissue is just not there.
It's not coherent. It's just, it is just all over the place, much like this review's been.
It's our attempt at mimicking the form.
I do have genuine issues with just some of the lore and some of the understanding of it and why they've not done certain things that they're capable of doing, or maybe. And these are answers that 100% won't be given to you. Like, you can't say, "Oh, it'll come up in season 2 why they've done this or not done this or whatever." It fucking won't, knowing David and Dan. They'll just ignore it. Or, Arya Stark will come out and stab him out of nowhere. It just won't be an answer to it.
My final thoughts on the show is that with the massive cost of the show, it's rumoured to be 160 million for the 8 episodes. The response has been decidedly lukewarm. And honestly, I did enjoy parts of the show.
Dude, where was that money? The Panama ship.
Like 3 episodes worth of money on that one.
Yeah, where was that money? How much did the crater cost?
Not 160 million.
Just where was it? Spend the money wisely. I bet 60 million of it went in David and Dan's pocket.
Let it go, David.
I'm not letting it go.
The sad thing is, is it because they've got the same name as you?
It does piss me off a little bit that one of them's called David. Yeah, I mean one's Dan, but it's not. Yeah, you said it was a free David problem.
I know.
One's a Dan.
Again, it was a long day. Well, ironically, if Jose had watched it, we would have had a free body problem because it would have been 3 years here, and there isn't now. So it's just a 2-body problem. For me, I binged it over a couple of days, but I did feel slightly empty afterwards. So it was almost like hard sci-fi fast food. And in theory, it had everything you want, right? It's got sci-fi, epicness, alien invasion, snarky scientists, global cabals with some jaw-dropping visuals. But altogether, it was just, and it's our usual word, fine. Honestly, right, I would prefer more seasons of Foundation than 3-Body Problem. And David, I don't think we're going to get more seasons of this show.
I think we will.
No, Will's head's in a jar.
Because I think Netflix have invested too much into it.
Brains in a jar.
For it to be a failure, I think they've invested too much into it. I don't think I'll watch the second season, if I'm honest. I struggled to finish it to begin with. So I don't think I'll watch the second season unless it pulls out some ridiculous trailer where you just get drawn back in.
Well, I think that brings us to the end on our 3-Body Problem section after our much more upbeat Roadhouse section. I think we feel depressed now, David.
Well, even Roadhouse was a bit depressing because we were just like, yeah, that was fine. And with this one, well, this is fine. Everything. Do
you know what's not going to be fine, David? Do you know what is going to be glorious? And this will be we are here now on episode 98 of We Needed Roads. And so we have a very special 100th episode planned, but we just don't have any idea what episode 99 is going to be or when we're doing it. So there are a bunch of things that we could be potentially talking about on that. And
hopefully the next massive spoiler episode that we're going to do is going to be a lot more upbeat. Yeah. We could talk Shogun.
I think we're going to be talking.
We could talk Fallout.
Full Gun. Show Out. We're going to be talking Full Gun and Show Out.
It's nearly 10 o'clock, Neil. We started this at 6.
Me and Ben have already seen all of Fallout. Jose's halfway through it, so it's just you to catch up on Fallout, David.
I haven't started it, admittedly, but based on what everybody's saying and based on what you're saying, it is a fantastic show.
And based on the fact it's Amazon's 3rd most watched show of all time at only like a week into its run, then I think it's going to do well. And also, they've confirmed season 2 of Fallout already. And that's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank my co-host, as always, David.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening.
I would thank Jose, but we had to roundhouse kick him to the face because he hadn't watched a 3-Body Problem. And also, don't forget, we have a merch store now where you and at least 5 other people can buy We Need Roads merchandise. The links are pinned tweet on Twitter, where you can find us at Needed Roads, and in our bio on Instagram at We Needed Roads. Also, feel free to give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you next time.
We Needed Roads.